Hi, so welcome to our second lesson of GCSE Maths. We're doing fractions today. So our learning objectives are: how do I multiply two fractions together? How do I divide two fractions? And then add and subtract fractions as well. Then we're going to look at what it means to simplify a fraction, how to find a fraction of an amount, and what is a reciprocal. Okay, so when you multiply two fractions together, that means you multiply the two top numbers together and then you multiply the two bottom numbers together. So if we look in our first example, we have 5 over 7 times 3 over 4. So we take the top numbers 5 and 3 and we multiply them together. Then we take the bottom numbers 7 and 4 and we multiply those together as well. So now we have 5 times 3, which is 15, over 7 times 4, which is 28. So 15 over 28 is our answer to that question. So if you look at the second one, this works exactly the same way. So we have 2 over 11 multiplied by 3 over 5. So we take 2 and 3, multiply them together, and make 6. And then we take 11 and 5, multiply them together, and that gives us 55. So division, this works very similarly, except what we do is we take the first fraction, leave it as it is, we change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then we flip the second fraction upside down. Now, this is a shortcut version of how you actually work it out. It's kind of a handy tip that lets you divide fractions without really having to think too much about exactly why it works, which is absolutely fine for your GCSE. So we have 5 over 7 divided by 3 over 4. So we keep the first fraction, 5 over 7, the same. We change it to a multiplication sign like this one, and then 3 over 4 we flip upside down so that we have 4 over 3. So now we have 5 over 7 times 4 over 3. So now we multiply them normally. So we have 5 times 4 over 7 times 3, which gives us 20 over 21. Now for a second example, we have 6 over 4 divided by 1 over 7. So we leave the first one the same and flip the second fraction, and then we multiply. So we end up with 6 times 7, which is 42, over 4 times 1, which is 4. So 42 over 4 is our answer. Now adding fractions, this one's a bit more complicated because what you have to do is you have to get a common denominator, which means make the bottom numbers the same. So if you look at the first example, we have 1 over 4 and 5 over 6. Because we have a 4 here and a 6 here, that means we can't currently add them. You can only add fractions when they have the same number on the bottom. So our first goal is to make them with a common denominator, so the bottom number the same. So what we do is we find a number that is in the 4 times table and the 6 times table. So in this case, we've chosen 24. So what we do is you multiply them two together, so you have 4 times 6 on the bottom. So that gives you your 24 on the bottom. 24 is in the 4 and the 6 times table, so we have 4 times 6. Now, on the top, you take this number and you multiply it by this one. Now that's because whatever we do to the bottom of a fraction, we also have to do to the top of the fraction. So we're multiplying this 4 by 6 to get 24. So now we have to multiply 1 by 6 as well. So we have here 1 times 6. Now with the second one, we have a 5 on the top. Now we're multiplying the 6 by 4 to get 24. So we have to multiply the 5 by 4 as well. So over here we have 5 times 4. So we now have 1 times 6 over 4 times 6 plus 5 times 4 over 4 times 6, which if you multiply these out gives you 6 over 24 plus 20 over 24. So now if you notice, these both have the same number on the bottom. So they have a common denominator, and that denominator is 24. So now we can add the fractions. So all we do is we leave the bottom one the same, and we add the two top numbers, so 6 and 20. So we have 26 over 24. If you look at the second example, it works exactly the same. So we find out what we want our common denominator to be. So in this case, 5 times 2 is 10. So we have 1 times 2, because we're timesing the 5 times 2 to get 10. And we have 3 times 5, because we're multiplying this 2 down here to get 10. So we end up with 1 times 2 over 5 times 2, plus 3 times 5 over 5 times 2. So if we sort this out, we get 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 5 is 15. So we have 2 over 10 plus 15 over 10. Now because these 10s are both the same on the bottom, that means we can add them. So we have 2 plus 5 over 10, which is 17 over 10. Subtracting works exactly the same way. You have to get your common denominator again. So make the bottom numbers the same. So here we have 4 and 6. So our good common denominator to take is 24 again. So we multiply the 1 and the 6. And we multiply the 4 by the 5 in the same way. So we get 6 over 24 minus 20 over 24. Now because the bottom numbers are the same, that means we can subtract. So we have 6 minus 20 over 24, which is minus 14 over 24. So remember, when you're multiplying or dividing, you don't have to have the same number on the bottom. When you're adding or subtracting, you do. You have to get that common denominator. So for the second example, we have to get our common denominator of 10. So now we have 8 times 2 to get this one here, and then 3 times 5 over here. So we end up with 8 times 2 over 10, which is 16 over 10, and 3 times 5 over 5 times 2, which is 15 over 10. So now we have the same number 10 on the bottom. We can subtract them, so we have 16 minus 15, which is 1 over 10, so we leave the bottom number the same. Okay, so simplifying fractions. This means that you can look for a common factor in the top and the bottom numbers. Okay, so for example, in this one, 2 over 6, the common factor would be 2. So what we can do is we can divide the top number by 2, which gives us 1, and divide the bottom number by 2, which gives us 3, so 1/3. So that's just an easier way of writing. So if you had your GCSE question and you got an answer of 2 over 6, there might be an extra mark for making it into 1/3. So how does that work? If you look at it in this picture over here, we see that if we have a block of 6, we have 2 of them shaded in. Now that 2 over 6 is the same as 1 over 3. If you look over here, we have the 4 over 8. So what's your common factor even going to be? So it's 4, because 4 and 8 are in the 4 times table, so 4 is our common factor. So we divide 4 by 4, which gives us 1, and 8 by 4, which gives us 2. So a simplified version of that is 1/2. So this is a common GCSE question. You have to find a fraction of an amount. So you take the amount, in this case £50, then you multiply it by the top number of the fraction. So in this case, you're going to have to multiply it by 2. Then you divide it by the bottom number, which is 5. So 2/5 of 50 is 50 times 2 divided by 5. So 50 times 2 is 100. Divide that by 5 is 20. So 2/5 of 50 is 20. So the next part is 2/3 of 12 sweets. So we multiply the 12 by the 2, which gives us 24, and then we divide it by 3, which gives us 8. So 2/3 of 12 sweets is 8 sweets. Okay, the last point on this is reciprocals, which is just the upside down version of the number. So if you have a whole number called an integer, so 1, 2, 5, 8, like this 3 here, the reciprocal of it is 1 over that number. Now, a reciprocal of a fraction just means flip it upside down, a bit like we did when we were dividing fractions. So the reciprocal of 4 over 3 is 3 over 4. So the reason this one up here works with the integers is that if you have 3, when you write 3 as a fraction, that's 3 whole ones, isn't it? So that's 3 over 1. So when you flip it upside down, 3 over 1 goes to 1 over 3, which is why the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. So the next important thing to remember is that when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, so 4 over 3 times 3 over 4, you will always get 1. And that's how you know if you found the right reciprocal. When you multiply them together, you will get 1 if you've got the right answer. And the very, very last important to remember is that 0 does not have a reciprocal because you can never, in any maths, divide by 0. If you end up dividing by 0, you've done something very wrong, and you should probably look through your answer again. So I think that's about everything for now. If you have any further questions or you want me to make a video on anything else, please do comment below and I'll see what I can do. Thank you for watching.